You've been lied to your entire life. They told you that being nice was a virtue, that kindness would be rewarded, that if you just kept giving, kept sacrificing, kept putting others first, eventually the world would give back. Eventually people would appreciate you. Eventually your goodness would be recognized. How's that working out for you? You're exhausted. You're resentful. You give and give until you're empty, and somehow you're still the bad guy when you finally say no. People don't respect your kindness. They exploit it. They don't admire your selflessness. They expect it. Your niceness hasn't made you loved. It's made you a doormat with a smile. And the worst part, deep down, you're not even that nice.
Beneath that pleasant exterior, there's anger you've never expressed, resentment you've never admitted, needs you've never voiced. You've been performing niceness while your real self suffocates in the shadows. Carl Jung saw through this performance decades ago. He understood that excessive niceness isn't virtue. It's pathology. It's not generosity. It's fear. It's not kindness. It's the shadow wearing a mask. Today, I'm going to expose the dark psychology behind being too nice. Why it destroys you. Why it repels respect. Why it poisons your relationships. And most importantly, how to transform from a people-pleasing performer into someone whose kindness is genuine, boundaried, and powerful. This will make you uncomfortable. It should.
Because the nice person you've constructed isn't who you really are. And until you face that truth, you'll keep bleeding yourself dry for people who wouldn't cross the street to help you. Before we begin, drop this affirmation in the comments. My niceness will no longer be my cage. Let's expose what you've been hiding. The first dark truth about being too nice is that it's not actually nice at all. It's manipulation. You heard me. Your niceness is a manipulation tactic. You're not giving freely. You're giving with invisible strings attached. You're not being kind because you genuinely want to help. You're being kind because you want something back. Approval, love, safety, the avoidance of conflict. Jung understood this deeply.
He called it the shadow of virtue. Every light casts a shadow, and the shadow of niceness is covert neediness. The too nice person appears generous on the surface, but underneath they're running a constant transaction. I'll be nice to you, and in exchange, you'll like me. I'll never disappoint you, and in exchange, you'll never leave me. I'll sacrifice my needs, and in exchange, you'll validate my existence. This isn't kindness. It's a contract the other person never signed. And here's where it gets ugly. When the other person doesn't fulfill their end of this unspoken contract, the nice person feels betrayed. Resentment builds. Passive aggression leaks out.
The nice person starts keeping score of all their sacrifices, waiting for payback that never comes. Think about your own niceness, honestly. When you do something kind for someone, are you truly free from expectation? Or is there a small part of you waiting to see if they appreciate it enough? hoping they'll return the favor, feeling hurt if they don't acknowledge your sacrifice. That's not generosity. That's a transaction disguised as a gift. And people can feel it. They can sense the strings attached even when they can't see them. This is why your niceness often doesn't create the connection you're hoping for. Because it's not real. It's a performance with a hidden agenda.
Jung said the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. For the nice person, accepting themselves means admitting that their niceness isn't pure. It has motives, it has needs, it has a shadow. True kindness has no strings. True generosity expects nothing back. True goodness comes from overflow, not from emptiness hoping to be filled. Until you can be kind without needing anything in return, your niceness will remain manipulation wearing a pleasant mask. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I give freely, or not at all. The second dark truth is that your niceness is a trauma response, not a choice. You didn't decide to become a people pleaser. You were trained to be one.
Somewhere in your past, you learned that your safety depended on keeping others happy, that your worth was measured by how useful you were to others, that your needs didn't matter as much as everyone else's. Maybe you had a parent whose love felt conditional. Be good and I'll love you. Cause problems and I'll withdraw. So you learned to suppress your needs, hide your true feelings, and perform pleasantness to maintain connection. Maybe you grew up in chaos, conflict, instability, unpredictability. You learned that being nice, being invisible, being no trouble at all was how you survived. Making yourself small was safer than taking up space. Maybe you experienced rejection or bullying. You learned that being yourself was dangerous.
That having opinions made you a target. That the only way to belong was to become whatever others wanted you to be. Jung called this the development of a false self. When the environment doesn't accept who you really are, you construct a persona that will be accepted. The nice person isn't expressing their true nature. They're wearing psychological armor that once protected a wounded child. The tragedy is that this armor is now your prison. The strategy that helped you survive childhood is destroying your adult life. You're still performing for approval that should have been given freely. You're still earning love that real love doesn't require you to earn. This is why simply deciding to stop being so nice doesn't work.
You're not dealing with a choice. You're dealing with programming that runs deeper than conscious thought. Your nervous system has been wired to perceive boundary setting as dangerous, to experience saying no as life-threatening, to feel other people's displeasure as existential crisis. Healing requires more than behavioral change. It requires understanding where your niceness came from, grieving the childhood where your authentic self wasn't safe, recognizing that the danger has passed and you no longer need this armor. Slowly, carefully, teaching your nervous system that you can take up space without being destroyed. This is shadow work at its deepest level.
The shadow of the nice person contains all the authentic impulses that weren't safe to express. The anger, the selfishness, the needs. The true self
that got buried under layers of performance. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I am healing the wound beneath my niceness. The third dark truth is that being too nice makes people trust you less, not more. This sounds backwards. Surely people trust those who are consistently kind and agreeable. Actually, no. Psychologically, excessive niceness triggers suspicion, and Jung's concept of the shadow explains exactly why. Everyone has a shadow. Everyone has darkness. When someone presents themselves as purely nice, purely giving, purely selfless, something feels off. Where's their edge?
Where's their darkness? Where's the rest of them? Either they're hiding something or they're not fully human. This is why nice guys often finish last in attraction. Why the always agreeable employee gets overlooked for promotion. Why the friend who never pushes back is somehow not the one people call in crisis. Something about their agreeableness feels incomplete, untrustworthy, not quite real. Jung said everyone carries a shadow, and the less it is embodied in the individual's conscious life, the blacker and denser it is. The person who presents only light is perceived as someone hiding intense darkness. And that hidden darkness feels more threatening than darkness that's openly acknowledged. Think about who you actually trust.
Is it the person who agrees with everything you say? Or the person who will tell you the truth even when it's uncomfortable? Is it the person who never expresses a negative opinion? Or the person whose yes means yes because their no means no? We trust people who are integrated, people who have access to their full range of emotions and impulses, people who could be harsh but choose kindness, people who could say no but choose to help. Their kindness means something because it's a choice, not a compulsion. The too nice person's kindness means nothing because it's automatic. They'll say yes to anything. They'll agree with anyone. Their approval is so freely given that it has no value. You can't trust their yes because they're incapable of no.
This is the cruel irony of people-pleasing. You sacrifice yourself to be liked, but the sacrifice itself makes you less likable. You abandon your truth to be trusted, but that abandonment makes you less trustworthy. You empty yourself to create connection, but emptiness doesn't connect. Fullness does. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My truth makes me trustworthy. The fourth dark truth is that your suppressed darkness doesn't disappear. It leaks. You think you're hiding your negative emotions, your anger, your frustration, your resentment, your judgment. You think that by never expressing these feelings, they don't affect anyone. You're wrong. They're leaking everywhere. Jung said, what you resist persists.
And what persists eventually finds a way out. The anger you won't express directly comes out as passive aggression. The resentment you won't voice becomes withdrawal and coldness. The frustration you swallow poisons your mood and seeps into every interaction. The too nice person is often surrounded by confused people. People who sense something is wrong but can't identify what. People who feel vaguely guilty around the nice person without knowing why. people who experience an uncomfortable atmosphere but can't point to any specific behavior causing it. This is the shadow leaking. This is suppressed emotion finding indirect expression. And it's far more damaging than direct expression would be.
Think about how it feels to be around someone who says everything is fine when clearly everything is not fine, who smiles while radiating tension, who claims they're not angry while their energy screams rage. It's confusing, it's uncomfortable, it's crazy-making. You might think you're protecting others by hiding your negative feelings. In reality, you're exposing them to something worse. At least direct anger can be addressed and resolved, but this leaking shadow creates an atmosphere of unease that can never be pinned down or processed. Jung understood that emotional honesty is a gift, even when the emotions are negative. When you tell someone you're angry, they know where they stand, they can respond, they can repair.
But when you hide your anger behind a smile, you deny them that opportunity. You make the relationship feel unsafe in a way they can't even articulate. The integrated person expresses their full range of emotions appropriately, not explosively, not abusively, but honestly. They say, "I'm frustrated about this." They say, "I felt hurt when you did that." They say, "No, I can't do that for you." This directness feels safer than the hidden resentment of the too nice person. Your darkness will be expressed one way or another. The only choice is whether you express it consciously and cleanly or unconsciously and messily. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I express my truth directly. The fifth dark truth is that being too nice attracts predators. The world contains people who look for victims, narcissists, manipulators, users, takers. And they can spot a people pleaser from a mile away. Your niceness isn't a shield against these people. It's a beacon that draws them in. Jung understood that the shadow contains our protective instincts, our ability to recognize danger, our willingness to fight back, our capacity to say no and mean it. When you reject your shadow to become relentlessly nice, you reject these protections too. The predator sees someone who won't assert boundaries, someone who will tolerate mistreatment to avoid conflict, someone who will blame themselves rather than hold others accountable, someone who is addicted to being liked and will sacrifice anything to maintain approval. This is the perfect victim. Think about your own history. How many times has your niceness been exploited? How many relationships have been one-sided, with you giving and them taking? How many people have sensed your inability to say no and used it against you? This isn't bad luck. It's the predictable consequence of suppressing your shadow. Without access to your aggression, you can't defend yourself. Without access to your selfishness, you can't prioritize yourself. Without access to your anger, you can't push back against mistreatment. The integrated person has a visible edge. Not because they're aggressive, but because they clearly could be.
There's something in their energy that says, I will protect myself if necessary. This energy alone deters most predators. They're looking for easy targets, and someone with accessible shadow is not an easy target. This doesn't mean becoming paranoid or hostile. It means having your full self available, including the parts that can fight back. It means having teeth, even if you choose not to bite. It means being capable of no, even when you choose yes. Jung said, the most dangerous people are those who are unconscious of their capacity for darkness. But there's a flip side. The most vulnerable people are those who have rejected their capacity for darkness entirely. Reclaim your shadow and watch the predators find easier prey.
Drop this affirmation in the comments. My darkness protects me. The sixth dark truth is that your niceness is killing your authentic relationships. You think agreeing with everyone creates closeness. You think never causing conflict creates harmony. You think hiding your true opinions creates safety. What it actually creates is loneliness. Jung said, loneliness does not come from having no people around you, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to you. The too nice person is surrounded by people, yet completely alone, because no one knows who they actually are. No one has met the real person behind the performance. Think about your closest relationships. Do those people know what you actually think?
Do they know what you actually need? Do they know when you're actually upset? Or do they know only the pleasant, agreeable, easy version you've constructed for public consumption? If they only know the mask, they don't know you. And if they don't know you, you're not actually in relationship with them. You're in relationship with their perception of your performance. You're loved for a character you play, not for who you are. This is the deepest loneliness of all. To be surrounded by people who like you and yet feel utterly unseen. To receive love that doesn't touch you because it's directed at your persona, not yourself. To be constantly performing and never resting in the acceptance of being fully known.
Authentic relationship requires risk. The risk of showing your true self and possibly being rejected. The risk of expressing your real opinion and possibly creating conflict. The risk of being genuinely vulnerable instead of performed pleasantness. The too nice person avoids these risks by never showing up authentically. They think they're protecting the relationship. In reality, they're preventing the relationship from ever becoming real. Jung understood that intimacy requires shadow. Two people who only share their light can be acquaintances at best. Real intimacy happens when shadows meet, when you show someone your darkness and they don't run, when they show you theirs and you move closer instead of away.
Your niceness is a wall, not a bridge. It keeps people at a comfortable distance where they can admire your performance, but never touch your truth. If you want real connection, you have to risk real rejection. There's no other way. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I show my real self to create real connection. The seventh dark truth is that you're not actually being kind to others. You're burdening them. This is perhaps the most painful truth for the too nice person to face. You believe your self-sacrifice is a gift, that your constant giving is helping others, that your willingness to put yourself last is noble and generous. It's not. It's a burden you're placing on everyone around you.
When you never express needs, you force others to guess what you want. When you never set limits, you make others responsible for not taking too much. When you never say no, you rob others of the chance to give to you in return. Healthy relationships have balance, give and take, expression and reception. Two whole people sharing from their fullness rather than one person emptying themselves into another. The too nice person destroys this balance. They give compulsively, making it impossible for others to reciprocate. They create a one-way flow that feels suffocating rather than generous. They deny others the pleasure of giving by never receiving. Jung understood that receiving is as important as giving.
The person who cannot receive cannot truly give either. Because genuine giving isn't a transaction designed to create obligation. It's an overflow that naturally invites reciprocity. There's also the burden of emotional labor. When you hide your true feelings, others have to work constantly to figure out what's actually going on. When you say yes while meaning no, others have to decode your resentment. When you're passive-aggressive instead of direct, others have to navigate a minefield they didn't know existed. Being around the too nice person is exhausting because nothing can be taken at face value. Everything requires interpretation. Every interaction has hidden layers.
The nice person thinks they're making things easy, but they're making things impossibly complicated. True kindness is clear. It says yes when it means yes. It says no when it means no. It expresses needs directly. It sets boundaries openly. It receives graciously. This clarity is a genuine gift. Your fog of niceness is not. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I am clear in my giving and receiving. You now understand the 7 dark truths about being too nice. It's manipulation disguised as generosity. It's a trauma response, not a virtue. It makes you less trustworthy, not more. Your suppressed darkness leaks everywhere. It attracts predators who exploit your weakness. It prevents authentic connection.
It burdens others instead of helping them. This is not an attack on kindness. Genuine kindness is beautiful. It flows from fullness rather than emptiness. It gives without strings. It has boundaries that make it sustainable. It comes from choice rather than compulsion. It includes being kind to yourself. What I'm attacking is the pathology of niceness, the performance that drains you, the mask that hides you, the cage that traps you, the shadow that's controlling you while you pretend it doesn't exist. Jung dedicated his life to one essential message. Wholeness requires integration of opposites, light and shadow, giving and receiving, yes and no, kindness and fierceness. You cannot be truly good while rejecting half of yourself. You can only be good by embracing
everything you are. The too nice person has rejected their shadow entirely, their anger, their selfishness, their aggression, their needs. These parts have been deemed unacceptable and locked away. But they don't stay locked. They escape. They sabotage. They poison everything they touch. The path forward isn't becoming cruel. It's becoming complete. It's integrating your shadow so your kindness becomes a choice rather than a compulsion. It's learning to say no so your yes means something. It's expressing your truth so your relationships become real. This is terrifying work. You've built an entire identity around being nice. You've been rewarded for your self-abandonment.
People have benefited from your lack of boundaries. Some of them won't like the new you. Let them go. Anyone who only loves your performance doesn't love you. Anyone who needs you to have no needs isn't capable of real relationship. Anyone who rejects you for having boundaries wasn't safe to be around anyway. Jung said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Your niceness has been preventing that becoming. It's kept the real you locked in a basement while a pleasant performer lives your life. It's time to let the real you out, not to become mean, to become whole, to become someone whose kindness means something because it's chosen, not compelled, to become someone whose love is real because it includes loving yourself.
If this video showed you the prison you've been living in, hit that like button. If you want more content on integrating your shadow and becoming whole, subscribe and ring the notification bell. Share this with someone who has been sacrificing themselves and calling it virtue. Your niceness has cost you enough. It's time to be free.